Next, we have Laughlin Artz, and he's going to tell us how we can mobilize humanity to end the climate crisis.
Hi. All right, well, thank you for this opportunity. So, first of all, I know when I say the word crisis, people say, why do you call it a crisis? Because it is. And the other thing is that the Chinese symbol for crisis means critical moment. And we're asserting that we are in the most critical moment. We're the first time in humanity, or the first time in history, that a species is in the process of extinguishing itself and has the potential to be aware of what it's doing. But the potential of awareness and awareness are two different things. And so very briefly, and I know I talked a bit about this the other day, I got into this about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, really just because I couldn't find out from the media, from the NGOs, from the government, from anybody, what is the actual situation in climate change? And specifically, when does the crap hit the fan, and are we doing enough? And I ended up having colleagues from other projects I'd worked on in hunger, AIDS, you know, very, very large-scale global projects, people at the UN, the State Department, NGOs, Climate Action Network, all of whom told me, well, if you're not going to print this, it's probably already too late. And what we're doing isn't even close. And my question was, why don't you tell people? And I was told, well, we don't want to alarm them, and we don't want to upset them, we don't want to scare them, blah, blah, blah. So that is when we took the two stands. That is really what this whole thing is based in. And one is that if you're on the planet, you have the right to know what's happening, and just the straight story. Forget the optimism, the pessimism, doom and gloom, you know, bright sunny skies, whatever, just the way that it is. And if you want to do something about actually ending it, you should have that opportunity. Now, if you find out and say, I'm just going to party on, not a problem. But where we're headed is that about 30 years from now, most of the planet is going to say, why didn't anybody tell me? And we just didn't think that was appropriate. So, the power to end the crisis. So if you want to get the power to end the crisis, which is really what we started 3.5 years ago, that we needed to get the science, the models, all of that. And please, for the sake of time, know that we've got scientists from the UN, the UNEP, the UNDP, UNICEF, the Emissions Gap Report, amazing, amazing scientists on our team, our advisory board. All of our science is sound, and we have tons and tons of reports we can show you. But if you're going to end the crisis, not work on it or mitigate it or progress it, you have to be working from reality, not from progress. You have to be working from the end back. And what you hear mostly in the media and what you get mostly is you get from the past forward. So you hear about how progressive things are. You hear about how bold things are. Hey, we doubled it this year from last year. Well, that's interesting, but what's it against the future? And when you map it against the future, it's way insufficient. And what we think makes the difference is the gap between where we need to be and where we're headed, not how great we've done. So ending the crisis, requires a critical mass of humanity related powerfully to the reality of the situation and in action consistent with that reality. See, we don't have any problem with optimism or hope as long as it's based in reality. We have a big problem with it if it's based in delusion. See, I know if I'm working with somebody and they have not gone through the oh my God phase, I don't want to work with them. Okay, so here's the essential elements of the reality, and we are out to bring the essential elements of reality to everyone on the planet. 1 is where we are, 2 is where we're predictably headed, 3 is where we need to be, and then 4 is the gap between 2 and 3. And if you don't have these 4 elements, you can't work on ending it. So here's the game, long-term and short-term. So the long-term game that we came up with, and again, this was vetted through lots and lots of people, it's not the best, but it's close enough for jazz, is that if we can get to 0 carbon before we use up the budget, we've won. And people can get that, and it's pretty simple. Now the problem is that's like a 20-year game, because that's where we're headed, is we'll use it up in 20 years. Well, if you tell people, especially in America, we got a 20-year game, they'll still call me in 19. So then anybody come up with something with short-term. What's short-term? So from the IPCC reports, the White House reports, the Emissions Gap Report, what the short-term game is, well, predictably, we will be at 52 gigatons annual emissions in 2020. If we can reduce that to 44, we will have, in effect, arc the trajectory. The arc, we will have impacted the emissions trajectory arc sufficiently to get us on track to ending the crisis. It won't end the crisis, but it buys us a lot of time for technologies to catch up, all kinds of stuff, but at least we've got a shot. So then what became the deal is, okay, so 8 gigatons. The game became, we're going to reduce emissions by 8 gigatons by 2020. It's measurable. So then the question was, well, is that something individuals can do, or is it, like a lot of people say, too big? Well, when we actually did the work, we found that if 500 million people taking very simple carbon reduction actions, like I'm going to eat, have one less hamburger a week, I'm going to take the train one day a week, very, very small things. If 500 million people take those emission reduction actions by 2020, we will bridge the 8 gigaton gap. So our mission is to mobilize the world to actually end the climate crisis. So, like people say the Republicans are so great, they have these very, very short statements, they say them over and over and over. One of ours is end the climate crisis, and then the gap to bridge is where we'll particularly be in 2020 and where we need to be on track to end the crisis. So it's end the crisis in 2020. So we're out to get the world in this 3-year game, basically a 3.5-year sprint, to do everything that's possible in terms of emissions reductions to bridge that 8 gigaton gap. So the pathway to success is that, and mobilized means that you've actually woken up a bit to what's actually happening. You've seen that I've got the power as an individual to take the action to make it happen, and I'm going to take those actions. So what's going to make the difference is action. Now, again, we just did this straight from what's it going to take to produce this result. Nothing against legislation, politics, and all of that. It's just not fast enough for the 3-year result. So we are working specifically on direct individual action. And what determines action? See, when we started this, they said you can't have the ending be measurable and blah, blah, blah. That's impossible. Now those same experts say, okay, fine, you did that, but you're never gonna execute it. Nobody's ever done 500 million people. I can't even get my daughter to clean her room, right? So what determines action is context. And that's kind of the mindset of the reality that people live in. So the current reality of climate change in general, number one, for most people, it's way too big and way too complex. Can't get my hands around it. And somebody hopefully is ending it, is dealing with it. The UN, Tesla, Al Gore, somebody, certainly not Trump, but somebody else, right? Or it's not that bad and we still have time. Look at the weather out today. We can still ski, whatever, right? People won't change their behavior. You have to make them. You have to punish them. You have to pass some kind of legislation. And the power is in the hands of someone else, not me. So this is pretty much the water that people swim in. So it leaves people in a myth-based reality of best efforts, hope. So it's kind of like I'll recycle and hopefully it makes a difference. But I won't see the difference between what I recycle today and ending the crisis, and that's the bridge we had to make. So the power to end the crisis is a function of dismantling the current mythology and the new reality we're out to bring into existence. Now, we're out to use the climate crisis as a great opportunity for this, but if we can get this reality in with humanity, we can use it on any issue. So first of all, it's endable. Second is, I've got the power to end it. And the third thing is, this is my situation. This is not the government's, it's not the UN's, it's not somebody else's, it's mine. So we're going to shift the context of climate change from complex, overwhelming, and inaccessible to simple, actionable, winnable, and engaging. So the global strategy is that we're waking people up to the situation and their relationship to it. Then we're inviting people to actually take the stand to end it. Then we're offering them the actual actions, because every time, I do talks in universities and companies and all over, this is all I do, right? Every time people begin to wake up to that they've actually got the power, their natural response is, what can I do? So we've actually laid out the actions that you can do that actually make the difference. So we've got an urban impact reality. So we're working in conjunction with, Mission 2020 and the work that they're doing. Deadline 2020 and the Council of Mayors. We worked with them in Mexico City. All in what we bring that's missing is we bring the direct action citizen engagement. It's the largest citizen engagement campaign in history, but we bring that to what's already being done in terms of political, in terms of policy, all of that, but we bring the direct action of the individuals. We've got strategic partnerships. So if you're, obviously I'm looking at you and you have amazing, organizations. If you see we partnership with everybody. We've partnership now. The Smithsonian has taken us on as one of their partner projects with impact. We're partnered with UNICEF now in terms of the 2 million kids that they've got, 2 million reporters around the world. So we're partnered with all kinds of large organizations because we need to get to 500 million people. So we want to go to who's got the largest constituencies. And we've got media. So we're utilizing media, social media, traditional media, all kinds of media. Here's one of our posters. So again, we want to get to the people that the climate people aren't going to get to. They are not going to watch a documentary. They are watching the Kardashians. They are playing Pokemon. That's what we've got to get to. And we got to get to them where they are, not try to get them to the glaciers. So the other thing we've got, which is really, really hot, is we've got the first End the Climate Crisis app. It's called 2020 or Bust. It's actually functional. You go on, and what you do is you get into the game of the century. And you get your own carbon budget depending on where you live and the actions that you commit to taking. And then you can see your carbon budget as you work it off, and then everyone around the world that's got the app that's playing aggregates their global budget so that you can see the action that you take against the global endgame. I can actually see, wow, I didn't eat a McDonald's hamburger today. I saved 600 gallons of water. So it starts to connect that what I do on a daily basis actually has a global impact. So we've got also we're in the next phase of developing the app. So we're going to have it be like Pokemon, Snapchat. You can send videos to other people. You can find other people in your area. You can, it's all swiping, right? Swiping. Like when we started this, my friend who's the creative guy said, if this isn't almost as easy as getting laid online, nobody's going to use it. So that was our whole model. Very, very simple, very, very easy, and very, very fun. We've got superheroes, zombies. You get points. I didn't eat meat. You get 10 points, all that kind of thing. So in 2017, what we're doing is that we're mobilizing 300 million global citizens. Again, through strategic partnerships, through the app, through our university work, all kinds of collaborations. Our constituency is everyone. And we're raising $20 million. 1 million of which I'm raising in the next 30 days. Now, you all are a million times more sophisticated. You've forgotten more about financing. And I mean, it's literally sitting here with you these 2 days. It's like, do you ever enroll in the wrong college course? And they're like 3 years ahead of you, but you're polite, so you sit there, but they're clearly all talking the same language. And you're like, yeah. So you all know tons more about financing and, models and everything. So any support you could provide us. We've got a stadium show that we're lining up in Yankee Stadium at the end of the fall. That's going to cost us about, $600,000. We've got major media outfits. Oh, can I show you the campaign, one of the campaign deals that we've got for the New York subway? I would have to ask you your permission because it's for New York subway riders. You ready? And this is no offense to my previous talker, right? Now see, we run this and it gets huge response because people want to know what the heck is that, right? We got to get through the white noise of the documentaries and the da-da-da-da, right? I'll bring it back, okay?
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS TDRIS.
Welcome to So You Want to Change the World. I'm Laughlin Artz, your host, and we're here to change the world. Now, in particular, and for the foreseeable future, for those of us who actually can see the future, we're going to be dealing with global warming. Well, global warming, hey, isn't that climate change? Well, yes, it was global warming, and then it got rebranded into climate change, and who knows, next week it might be BLT on Rye Hold the Mail, but it doesn't matter because whatever you call it, what's actually happening is still what's happening, and that's what we want to deal with. So let's start at the basics, okay? What is this global warming climate change? All right, you ready? This is global, okay? This is warming. Now, global plus warming equals There. This is global warming, and this is where we're headed. That's right, we're on our way from global warming to global fried. So, be sure to tune in next week when we answer the question, how long do we have really until the shit hits the fan? All right, well, there you have it. And don't forget, you have the power. Action now. 2020 or bust.
That was done in my apartment. So it's the beginning of a web series. It's going to be like Hulu or Amazon, but it's going to be very, very simple, very, very short. It will give rigorous science, but again, designed to wake people up and give people the power to actually take the action. So thank you very much, and I would love to work with all of you. So thank you.